Welcome to the Cyber Rants podcast, where we're all about sharing the forbidden secrets and slightly embellished truths about corporate cybersecurity programs. We're ranting, we're raving, and we're telling you the stuff that nobody talks about on their fancy website and trade show giveaways, all to protect you from cyber criminals. And now, here's your hosts, Mike Rotondo, Zach Fuller, and Lauro Chavez.
Welcome to the Cyber Rants podcast. This is your co-host, Zach Fuller, joined by Mike Rotondo and Lauro Chavez. And today we have an episode where we're just gonna rant, see where it goes. We'll look at the news first and go from there. So these are always fun conversations. It's always fun to see where they go. I would expect nothing less today. So Mike, that said, why don't you kick us off with the news?
Morning and welcome to the news. Starting off the news, Ohio State plays Notre Dame on September 3rd at 4 o'clock on ABC. So that's the most important thing out there. CISA announced the top 11 malware strains to be concerned about. The list follows CISA's April 2022 list of the top 15 most often exploited computer vulnerabilities that cyber criminals routinely leverage to slip into targeted computer systems. The agency listed the top malware strains of last year as Agent Tesla, which is an information stealer, Azio Rolt, Formbook, Ursnif, Lokibot, Mouse Island, Nanocore, Quakebot, Remco's, TrickBot, and Gootloader. If you've got any of those, you've got problems. There's a good link to CISA on how to deal with it in the article.
There was just one that we forgot to list. It's called the Flaming Gooch. Anyway,
Gooch. Chinese hackers use new Windows malware to backdoor government and defense orgs. This is primarily happening overseas. They're targeting Eastern European targets, but who's going to believe that that's going to stay there? An extensive series of attacks detected in January used new Windows malware called PortDoor to backdoor government entities and organizations of the defense industry from several countries in Eastern Europe. Kaspersky linked the campaign with a Chinese APT group tracked as TA-428, no cool name, unfortunately, known for its information theft and espionage focus in attacking organizations in Asia and Eastern Europe. The threat actors successfully compromised the networks of dozens of targets, sometimes even taking control of their entire IT infrastructure by hijacking systems used to manage security solutions. To achieve their goal, the Chinese cyber spies used spear phishing emails containing confidential information about the targeted organizations and malicious code exploiting CVE 2017-11882. If you have VMware, you've probably heard about this already as they sent out a big bulletin, but VMware warns of a public exploit for critical auth bypass vulnerability. Proof of concept exploit code is now publicly available online for critical authentication bypass security flaw in multiple VMware products that enables attackers to gain admin privileges. A week ago, VMware released updates to address the vulnerability, which is CVE 2022-31656, affecting VMware Workspace, OneAccess Identity Manager, and vRealize Automation. Multiple other flaws were patched that same day, including a high-severity SQL injection flaw that will allow remote attackers to gain remote execution. Today, VMware confirmed malicious code that can also exploit CVE 2022-31656 and 2022-31659. So long story short, patch your VMware. Slack resets passwords after exposing hashes and invitation links. Slack notified roughly 0.5% of its users that it reset their passwords after fixing above exposing salted password hashes when creating or revoking shared invitation links for workspaces. When a user performed either of these actions, Slack transmitted a hashed version of their password, not plain text, to other workspace members. Slack told this to Bleeping Computer. Although this data was shared via the new or deactivated invitation link, the Slack client did not store or display the data to the member's workspace. Twitter confirmed 0-day used to expose data of 5.4 million accounts. Twitter's confirmed a recent data breach was caused by a now patched 0-day vulnerability used to link email addresses and phone numbers to users' accounts, allowing a threat actor to compile a list of 5.4 million user account profiles. The vulnerability allowed anyone to submit an email address or phone number, verify it was associated with a Twitter account, and retrieve the associated account ID. The threat actor then used the ID to scrape the public information for the account. And the last two kind of dovetail together. Twilio discloses a data breach after SMS phishing attack on employees. The cloud communications company Twilio says some of its customers' data was accessed by attackers who breached internal systems after stealing employee credentials in an SMS phishing attack on August 4th, 2022. Twilio became unaware became aware of unauthorized access to information related to a limited number of Twilio customers' accounts through a sophisticated social engineering attack designed to steal employee credentials. Basically, they sent them a link asking them to click URLs containing the Twilio, Okta, and SSO keywords that would redirect them to a Twilio sign-in page clone. The SMS phishing messages baited Twilio employees into clicking the embedded links by warning them their passwords had expired or were scheduled to change. And just dovetailing off that, Cloudflare employees also were hit by the same attack that hit Twilio, but they're saying that Cloudflare is saying that none of their employees' credentials, although they were stolen, they were able to breach because of Cloudflare's additional security. In the headlines, we've got Microsoft Exchange patches that need to be done, Microsoft Dogwalk 0-day exploited. There's a big Cisco patch that needs to be put. Cisco fixes bugs allowing RSA private key theft on ASA and FTD devices. So Microsoft Windows Patch Tuesday was huge this month. There's a couple other big breaches, including Snapchat and Amex. 3 ransomware gangs successfully attacked the same network. Automotive supplier breached by 3 ransomware gangs in 2 weeks. And lastly, new dark web markets claim association with criminal cartels. So fun, exciting things going on in cybersecurity.
Wow.
Laurel, what do we got?
Boy, those are some good headlines for this week. I'll tell you what. To dovetail on your VMware patches, so keep in mind, everybody, that the threat actors are publishing readily available exploits for this situation on multiple pieces of the VMware technology on the GitHub community. So if you've got VMware, as Mike said, please patch and do it very quickly because they just keep rolling out these exploit payloads. So I've got a couple to talk about this week. The first one is for everybody who refuses to use Discord or something to the like and decides to install something called the Easy Chat Server. So if you are one of those individuals out there who's decided to go and purchase and install Easy Chat Server 3, you should look at that versioning and make sure that you've updated it, because version 3 does have a remote stack buffer overflow that can be done unauthenticated. So if anybody gets a hold of that chat server URL, unfortunately, you might experience problems. And secondly, if you are dealing with Palo Alto networks, you may be familiar with PanOS, which is Palo Alto's version of Cisco iOS, or the integrated operating system. Version 10 has remote code execution capabilities. These are for authenticated users. So keep that in mind. Pretty serious, but you do have the authentication boundary protecting everybody from this exploit. However, authenticated individuals would be able to produce a remote code execution against version 10 of PanOS. So if you're using these Palo Alto devices, make sure that you are upgrading past version 10. And with that, Zach, I hear we're going to wing it today. Good thing I brought my buffalo wing sauce.
Outstanding. We are, but first I want to give a little shout out to Cloudflare based on Mike's article. Good job out there. I know we clown about Microsoft and WordPress a lot and stuff. It's only fair that we give some props too. And I think Cloudflare's been a great platform for a lot of clients. It seems like it makes the pen tester's job hard. Is that tough to, or is that accurate? Would you say
it is
that?
accurate? Yeah, no, it really
Awesome.
does. Cloudflare does a really good job as long as you've implemented everything that they've done accurately. Then yes, it does a very good job of thwarting attacks. And yeah, hats off to them for not getting hacked and causing all of their customers to go into some sort of very, very serious incident response mode.
Yeah, there still was. I mean, I hate to be the Debbie Downer, but there was still a failure on their part from a training perspective because people did click on those links. It was only
totally.
their secondary security that did prevent them from.
Good point.
Yeah. So what we do is we pat them on the head and then we slap them too, just because
Yeah.
Oh, this is. I thought we're gonna say something good for once, but no. This show is not brought to you in part by Cloudflare, but it could be. So if you're with Cloudflare, no, just kidding. We don't need sponsors. But that being said, we're gonna take.
But we will take your money.
Okay. Well, that being said, let's do a quick commercial break and come right back, and then we can start our rant.
Want even more Cyber Rants? Be sure to subscribe to the Cyber Rants podcast. Get your copy of our best-selling book, Cyber Rants, on Amazon today. This podcast is brought to you by Silent Sector, the firm dedicated to building world-class cybersecurity programs for mid-market and emerging companies across the U.S. Silent Sector also provides industry-leading penetration tests and cyber risk assessments. Visit silentsector.com and contact us today.
And we're back with the Cyber Rants podcast. We were just talking about the news, a lot of interesting things happening. What's going on? Why is there so much activity all of the sudden? I mean, compared to just even the last couple of weeks.
Well, summer's almost over. People
Kids are
have
back in
things.
school.
Yeah,
Kids are going back to school. The hackers have more time to write payloads, and
they're back from vacation. It's a lot of Europe right now is on vacation. I mean, I think France closes in August. So.
Oh yeah. Oh, they're interesting.
So you're going to have scaled down security in a lot of places too. So.
Good point. Excellent point. Well, interesting. And it's interesting to think about cyber criminals being normal people with kids and stuff, like going home to their house in the suburbs, pulling in their SUV into the driveway and getting out and mowing their lawn, I mean, that's the reality, folks.
Well, actually, if they're in Russia, they're living probably in apartment buildings that were paid for by German war reparations from World War II, stacked on top of each other. Yeah, much like the ones I lived in when I was there. So
yeah. Unfortunately,
smoking cigarettes, listening to techno, writing exploits for Twilio. You know what
exactly.
I mean? Right after you drop the kids off at kindergarten.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's the reality probably for a lot, but there are the kingpins, I'm sure, that, like we've seen in the news, that do all right, but they're still scum. So that being said, there's a special place for them when they die. So anyway, that being said, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. We are getting into what I affectionately call busy season, I guess. They basically, as we approach Q4, and I think this is true of a lot of cybersecurity companies, IT companies, people in compliance business, all of that. A lot of things seem to happen right at the end of the year. So we've harped before on the idea of trying to spread out your major initiatives throughout the year, starting early in the year, right? And if you have existing relationships with vendors and such that are used to that tempo of year-end stuff and kind of have you scheduled in, that's one thing. But if you go out shopping and looking for services for the first time, just remember, for all organizations in our space, I won't say all, but for a lot, it's a very, very busy time because people are realizing, oh, great, we got to catch up on this requirement that we didn't do early in the year. We've been putting this stuff on the back burner, and now we got to make it happen. Plus, people are planning for their Q1 initiatives, going with a calendar year. So, interesting time.
You also have the budget dumps, right? And we got to use it before the end of the year, and no one ever gets in trouble for spending money on cybersecurity. So
that's excellent point. Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, that's
point.
true. Well, not unless you abuse the cybersecurity budget to go on sabbatical with your buddy.
No,
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we've never known anybody that did that.
No, I've never known anybody that did that and lost their job.
I think they're working at McDonald's now.
That's what happens. But yeah, the week of this recording, there's definitely some abuse of cybersecurity budgets going on at Black Hat.
Yeah.
There are some ragers. There are some people that are maybe using company funds for things that aren't necessarily, pushing the company forward, let's just say. Would that be a safe bet?
Now, I've heard the conference rooms at Spearmint Rhino are very nice, and they serve a great buffet.
Wow. So you've heard. Wow.
I've heard.
Well, yeah, so there might be some corporate funds being pushed out in the maybe inappropriate directions. But hey, at the same time, I mean, cybersecurity professionals have it they've got a rough job and a thankless job. So maybe reward them, maybe throw them some money once in a while. If you're running a team and you have a little discretionary budget, hey, there's some good opportunities to do that through conferences and trips to Maui. You're just saying. So that
But
being said,
if you ask your people, hey, how was Black Hat? And they say, I never made it. I got stuck in the casino. You should certainly remember that for next year.
Yeah,
you gotta
and
have.
the difference between Black Hat and then DefCon
DefCon.
are amazing. Black Hat's everybody's spending high dollars. At DefCon's everybody's at the pepper mill at 5 a.m. Trying to keep the puke off their shoes. So
A little different demographic, but a lot of
yeah,
crossover too. You see shirts on both sides of the fence, but
yeah,
yeah, that's so interesting times, but yeah, good time for people to kind of rest before the storm. But yeah, Black Hat. I mean, you got to get some CPEs, right? Like that's the
yeah.
requirement if you're going to send your team. At least they got to get a couple hours of continuing education. Um,
Yeah,
it's
there's nothing
valid.
like standing wall to wall, shoulder to shoulder with a bunch of other nerds in a conference room trying to see one guy's keyboard.
Yeah, exactly. People that are, and they all got they got like Yagi antennas sticking out of their backpacks and stuff, because they're going
Yeah,
to
I'm
be
like, hey, dude, can I
snooping
join your
on somebody's
Wi-Fi?
Wi-Fi. Yeah,
There's a
trying to
reason they
get.
give you PDFs of all the seminars at DEF CON because you can very well just sleep through a seminar and it still counts as CPE.
Exactly.
There you go. Fun stuff. Well, as as we get closer to the end of the year, and so those of you that are by the time this comes out, those of you that are recovering from DEF CON, send us your stories, so or from Black Hat too, send us your stories. What's the most interesting thing that you want that happened to you, and that could be a future podcast episode on Cyber Rants. So we got to keep it clean,
Yeah.
but we can, there's ways of editing. So
The
so
beep.
hey, from my vantage point, being the kind of the business dork, and thinking about, okay, well, what's next, what's coming up, with as far as we're going to get a major influx. I would say this year's been a little bit different, and I think it's because of COVID. Been more consistent requests and things throughout the year, but I still anticipate that'll ramp up tremendously. I mean, we're already just packing stuff in for Q4. I mean, it's going to be a wild ride, as it always is, and that's where we thrive. So we love it, but. That being said, for those of you that are going out shopping for vendors, because I've been on both sides of the fence, right? Going out shopping for vendors, being the shopper, but also being the shoppee, talking with business leaders and CISOs and such, CIOs and such that are looking to establish new vendor relationships, get quotes and all that stuff. And there are some severe failures that I see in soft skills. And I know we've talked about soft skills before. We've talked about this a bit in the past, because in the tech world, of course, a lot of people, I mean, you have to focus time on really learning your craft, right? But what I think happens to a lot of technology leaders as they become leaders, they've forgot that, hey, now my job is shifted. It's different. We have to take a different approach. We have to look at things different. There's some new education, right? Just like you're always learning, always evolving in technology. Same thing is true in just different realms of business. So one of the things I see that will drive any vendor crazy, and in the cybersecurity world, they probably just will ignore it or won't spend a lot of time with you, is these companies that are going out and just say, hey, send me a number. Just send me a number. What does this cost? What does that cost? It's like, if somebody ever sends you a number when you ask that, they are not your vendor. You should never do business with that company. If they say, well, I want a network pen test, can you send me a price? No, no, it cannot, because if I do, it's going to be a severe failure as a project, right? There's scoping involved, there's discussions. We don't just need to know the number of IPs. We want to know the objectives. We want to know what the company really wants to get out of this, who's looking at this test. How, who, the timelines, all that stuff goes into it. And so when people say, hey, just what does this cost? And they're going to go on 15 different web forms that day and fill them out and say, send me a quote. That's something that, I mean, we don't even respond to. It's not even, really worth the time. And if we do, it's like, hey, well, we'll chat, and discuss, and we can scope this out for you. And if they say, oh, well, I don't have time, then okay, move on. We're not, because we're never going to be the Walmart of cybersecurity and just get you the cheapest rate. If that's what you're looking for, that's fine, but you might as well just not spend any money at all, because what are you doing? So that's one thing. And then when you do get in, well, before I move on, any other comments, anything you guys have seen along
I'd
that
just
realm?
like to say there's nothing wrong with Walmart. We're not bashing
No,
Walmart.
no, they've done well. They've done well.
They've done pretty good.
No, I know. I mean, I've been there before where it's like, I don't want to deal with some scumbag sales guy. I just want to say, give me a ballpark and then I'll figure out if I want to actually talk to you. Because I have an idea of what my budget is. But yeah, you're 100% right. If someone gives you a firm cost and says, if they say, oh, the pen test can be anywhere from 8,000 to 25,000, depending on what you have, that's fair. You can talk to them. If they come back and say 11,000 firm, that's what it is, that's a problem because they don't know anything.
Yeah.
So.
And there are companies that will do that, and it will lead those that are unknowing to believe that, oh, okay, well, if they can, why can't everybody else?
Well, and they're also going to give you like an automated pen test or some kind of cheaper scan and call it a pen test or something like that. So
right,
yeah, they'll put Skippy the intern on it as soon as they realize that they underscoped it and underpriced it.
Yep.
So you'll get a $4.25 an hour individual out of the third grade to conduct your test for it.
Yeah, press the button here, Skippy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, we joke, but that's actually literally what happens.
That happens a lot. Yeah, it really does.
Unfortunately, that's the nature of the beast. For those organizational leaders, if you're leading, an IT or security compliance realm, when you get into conversations with vendors, and I can think of multiple scenarios that where this has happened, even just a week or so ago. You're talking with when you're talking with an organization that you may be doing business with, you want to treat them as, especially in the security realm where companies are in demand, you want to treat them as a partner. You want to treat them as somebody that, hey, we're looking to establish the best possible relationship. We want, an organization that can add value to ours and vice versa. We want to build something for the long term. So if you go in and start pulling things, like one of the things we see is I could probably create names for all the different personas, having dealt with so many different types of individuals along the year. And I don't think it's malicious in a lot of cases. I think it's just they haven't been taught or haven't studied how to have these kind of dialogues and how things like negotiation and such. So they go in and they'll pull something like not acting like they don't know much about a particular security framework or something, saying, oh, and then they're just kind of asking kind of some newbie questions and stuff. And then they'll go in and later on in the conversation say, start to posture, say, oh, well, I got this background and that background, and I've done all this and I know that. And then I got these other vendors that I've been working with. And then they'll, and then they'll just like ask for pricing, right, or something like that. Well, what do you charge? They won't give you, oh, well, I'm paying this, of course, right? They don't ever want to say the first number, because in all your negotiation books and all your basic entry level stuff, they always say never put out a number first. Never put out a number first. Well, that's also BS. If you actually, because you think about it, it's like, well, if that's what everybody knows, then everybody's trying not to put out the number first. Put out a number first. Make it too low, make it too high, depending on what you're trying to do, and see and start to gauge the interest, right? And start to understand where the other side is coming. But before you even talk about numbers aren't everything, right? So if you go in and you start having this discussion with an organization that is in this business all the time, has these conversations all the time, like your vendors, right? Your cybersecurity and compliance, IT vendors, they're having these discussions every day. So they kind of see all kinds of stuff. So don't go in posturing, don't go in and say, oh, and assuming they even want your business. That's another big thing, is that organizations, certainly is silent sector, but others as well, right? Professional services firms, you can't assume that, hey, I'm a big company and so they want my business because we got money to spend, A lot of times that's not the case, because they can get that money elsewhere with organizations that are easier and more fun to deal with. So you got to think about that as well. What is my vendor, treat them like a future business partner. What are they really looking for? How could we make the most out of this, and how can our company as the buyer, get the best possible service at the best rates from them? So that comes through establishing a relationship. That comes through not posturing, saying, oh, we're a big fish or whatever, and we got money to spend, so you want to do business with us. Because if you do that, chances are they're just going to say, they're going to entertain you. Oh, yeah, that sounds good. We'll get back to you. But they're just not going to do much for you. When I think we treat all of our customers extremely well, but, when we have a great working relationship with an organization, we go above and beyond. I mean, the team just got, way beyond. I mean, all kinds of stuff is going on that's outside of the formal scope, and ways to add value, ways to empower the team internally, all of that. And you get that through the relationship, not just saying, hey, well, we want you to give us the best possible price, and we got these vendors that, been working with, and this and that, and we're going to pit them, up against each other here. And that stuff never works in our industry. Now, if it does work, it does often work on desperate companies, right? Organizations that don't have a lot of options, that don't have a customer base, right? And they may be willing to bend over backwards and do the, jump through hoops and put on the dog and pony show. But that's probably not going to be your best option as far as service delivery goes. So anyway, that's my teaching moment, my teaching half hour or whatever I just took up through my rant. But I mean, is that stuff fair to say? I mean, have you guys seen this, similar things, or am I way off base here?
No, you're on base. What I really don't like is when you're getting into this conversation with a vendor, and like you said, the said individual is not playing like they don't know, and then all of a sudden, like halfway through the conversation, they're like, well, I just want to tell you that I know security too. I took a security plus class, and then for a while I was the chief technology officer at the Capitol Hill Occupied protest in Portland, and we were dealing with hand-me-down phones, and so I had to be secure. Yeah, no, and honestly, it's not a good look for you. It's really just not, to try to flex your technical skills in a conversation with a vendor. It really just shows personality traits that I can, not speaking for everybody on the call here, but we're probably just not, we're going to pass. Right. Yeah, exactly. We don't need your business that bad that it's worth dealing with bad personalities. So, just to echo what you said, Zach, those soft skills I think are really, really important to have. And just because you changed one registry key in Windows doesn't make you a security expert.
Right. And just because you're an MSP and you've got someone that's reading the CISSP book does not make you a security vendor either. And we've seen that as well.
Yeah, so. It says here on page 7 that.
Yeah. So
oh, go ahead.
There's 2 ways you can take this. I mean, so looking for the right security vendor, there's definitely some snake oil salesmen out there. There are some companies that we've dealt with, one that tried to buy us, and we were like smelled right through their BS real quick they are no longer around. There are definitely some snake oil people, and you have to be careful what you're buying, right? Are you buying an automated pen test? Are you buying one with some human intelligence behind it? Are you just trying to check a box? What are you looking for? But on the flip side, there's other vendors that you're dealing with on a daily basis, and you have to rein that whole process in as well. Not just security, but it's like your CRM, your MSP, your email provider, all these different vendors that you deal with on a daily basis. You need to control that. You need to validate their security, because chances are, if you're in the B2B software space, you're getting questionnaires about your security. You have every right to ask those questions of everybody else as well. Just because Blue Cross Blue Shield asks you a question doesn't mean you can't ask Bob CRM a question. You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. So you need to have great due diligence in any vendor that you're dealing with that has a potential to impact your business, whether you're dealing with regulated or non-regulated business or data, excuse me. But you need to have a really clear-eyed view of anybody you're dealing with, because there's just so much crap out there, for lack of a better word. So forgive my gruffness.
No, it's fine. I answer yes to all the security questionnaires. Anytime the questionnaires ask me a question, I just say yes.
Yeah.
That's what you're supposed to do, right?
I'm a security expert.
Flip it on its head, right? Treat whenever you're getting into a conversation, if you want to get the best possible service, you want to get the most out of your relationship with a potential or current vendor, right? Treat them like they're part of the family, part of the team. That's what you want. Is you want vendors, you want your organization to be like one big happy team, not a bunch of disjointed people that just kind of come and go, and you'd be amazed how much those vendors and those partners, I would call them, will do for you over time. I mean, from referring new opportunities to new capabilities, all kinds of things, kind of let you in on what's coming up next, all of that. But if you're just out there saying, hey, just you're expendable, they're going to treat the relationship, unfortunately the same way, and just say, okay, well, we won't count on them being around very long, and move on. And so yeah, just think about that. Treat your vendor like your immediate team members, the people that report to you, and be a good leader, and help them build, help them grow, and everybody will be happy, and it'll all be roses and daisies, right? Isn't that how it works out?
Rainbows and buttercakes.
Yeah, unicorns.
And unicorns that fart.
One thing that just keep in mind too is don't ever compromise your security vendors' integrity by changing data or misrepresenting yourself. All security vendors with certifications have integrity clauses attached to those certifications. And you can jeopardize a company by doing things unethically. We've fired 2 customers over this already, in however long we've been around, because they've changed report data, they've changed all these things that does not jive with what we did, and changed the meaning of a report, changing from high risk to medium risk on a pen test, and things like that. So when you do stuff like that, at least when you're dealing with solid sector, you're going to get fired as a customer.
Yeah.
So.
The beauty is that's a very small minority. The flip side is we just work with some awesome organizations that have these relationships where we help each other build and grow and thrive, and it's people that we even keep in touch with, if they change jobs or whatever, they're we see this as long term, not just a transactional piece. So we've learned the hard way, through getting customers like the ones you just described, Mike. We kind of look out for that early on, which is another reason for that vetting, right? When you're in this process, the interview goes both ways, and we need to make sure that the way I see it, if we can't add value to a company, if we're just checking a block, we're not the right vendor for them. So if we can't add value, and it's just a exercise to check off some requirement, and that's it, we're not the right fit. There are other organizations that'll do that, and we just don't want to do that. But not that don't mean to be a silent sector commercial here, but no, that's how we think. Be transparent and put it out there.
It is.
And if you read the book Cyber Rants, you'll understand.
Yeah, that's Seamus.
Available on Amazon.
It's an international bestseller. If you haven't heard about it, I'm surprised. but just to kind of tack on there, be nice to your, if you're in a conversation with your cybersecurity vendor, right? Your partner for cybersecurity, be nice. If those who don't know, CyberSeek right now is reporting 714,548 open cybersecurity jobs right now in the United States. There's not enough professionals to accommodate that job opening number in this country. So if you are in need of cybersecurity services and you're meeting with an organization and you're being a Mervin about, puffing up about how awesome you were back in the 80s at cybersecurity, and you're trying to not be a very good personal person, a company is probably going to pass because we don't want to have to go to work and deal with those personalities, right? We'd rather not take the money, and because there's so many other businesses out there that are such a wonderful joy to work with. And like you said, Zach, like 99% of all the clients we've ever had have just been outstanding, and we still have a lot of them. But you're gonna shoot yourself in the foot if you start rough handling some of the vendors, especially in the cybersecurity space, because there is no talent today to fulfill these needs. You're gonna have to look to a managed service provider for these things.
Well, and the talent that you're going to get now that's going to fill this is going to be entry level. The senior level talent, like Laura and I and a lot of our peers that we know,
I have no peers. I have no peers.
We're already engaged, and we're not, anyway, yeah, we're not looking for it. And just a shout out to all the people on LinkedIn that keep sending me requests to interview. I'm not interested.
Yeah. Thanks. Could you read my profile for once and see that I have a job?
It's all cool that you want to offer me $100 an hour, but I'm not interested. Thank you.
Yeah, Mike, but free pizza in the office every
exactly.
day.
Yeah,
every day, free pizza. Foosball table.
Yeah, I miss the Friday potluck at the foosball table personally.
Remember today's Friday, which is a Hawaiian shirt day. So
exactly.
If you want to wear a Hawaiian shirt and jeans, that would be acceptable.
I would rather cut out early on a Friday afternoon and go have fish tacos and Scottsdale Blonde at Carlos O'Brien's than set my own schedule than wear a Hawaiian shirt on Friday.
You sure? I don't know. I'm more on the Hawaiian shirt side. I mean, floral prints. Come on. That's my favorite. Well, hey, we're sorry, Laura. Go ahead.
I hacked my TI calculator when I was 15. I'm a hacker.
Yeah.
I know cybersecurity.
I had a hardened Cobalt mainframe. Yeah.
I think I still have a TI 83 sitting around somewhere with.
I knew this magical calculation you could put in a TI calculator, and if you turn it upside down, it said boobs.
Okay, well, that's enough for this episode. But these random rants are always fun. Hope you listening enjoyed it, and again, rate the podcast, share the episodes. We're not necessarily the most professional production in the world, nor do we ever intend to be, but we have fun doing it, so share the podcast, rate it, do whatever you want, just enjoy your day mostly, and check us out on the next episode. Have a great one.
We're like the Jimmy Kimmel of cybersecurity.
If you say so, Laura.
Pick up your copy of the Cyber Rants book on Amazon today. And if you're looking to take your cybersecurity program to the next level, visit us online at www.silentsector.com. Join us next time for another edition of the Cyber Rants podcast.